Good evening, everybody. This is Dave Robinson. I'm the father of geologist Daniel Cornelius Robinson. Just want to tell you, first of all, thank you for coming in this evening's Q&A. Tonight, I will be having a guest on, Larnell Farmer. We'll be talking about the protest, the Justice for Daniel protest. You guys have some information to put out about this upcoming event. Also, I just wanted to reiterate really quickly here before I start this Q&A. I wanted to first of all tell you that I am still having this search for Daniel on the 25th. So I'm asking you guys to please join me on the 25th to come out and support. I have at least 180 some people, I believe it is. I'll have my team to put that in the chats. But I have people already signed up to come into the search. I'm very grateful and happy to hear about that. And I'm getting close to the 200 mark that I'm asking for. That is very crucial to the search for Daniel. I have to have that numbers to be for the search to be very successful. Again, thank you so much for everyone who already signed in went to pleasehelpfinddaniel.com to join the search efforts for Daniel. As you guys know, I have put out the information for law enforcement to join us in that search. Hopefully, that law enforcement will show up. This will give the law enforcement opportunity to show who they really are, to show the community, to show everyone that they mean what they say. If they're there to support the community, they're there to support a man who's been out over a year searching for his son out the desert, conducted over 45 weeks of searches, conducted over covered over 35,000 acres of land, and as well as found human remains in my searches that brought a lot of closures to other families that's out there, families that was looking for their loved ones. Also, I just wanted again to show some of that is just for you guys to have some understanding how it works. If you guys can't follow me along, this is the website. Please help find Daniel.com. Many of you have already visited the page. Of course, like I said, many of you have already signed up for the search. But this is the website. You go to pleasehelpfinddaniel.com, and on that page there, you can see all the information at the top of the screen. You got to sign the petition. You got the donate button. You have the events tab, volunteer the search tab, as well as volunteer in other ways. Print the flyers. I'm going to go rough around through it really quick. Ain't gonna take but a moment because I am going to get ready. I am going to start this Q&A really soon here. But if you guys can please follow along with me on this website. So first of all, I just want to go here. Please help find Daniel.com. If you look up here at the top here, like I said, the sign petition. If you click this button here, of course, I am still we're at right now at 100, and let's see where we're at right now. The numbers going up. We're at let's see, 124,000. I'm trying to get the 150 mark of people putting their voices to this petition. That is very crucial to my efforts as well to get law enforcement to do what they should as well. Again, as the donate button, you guys know I have been actively working on this efforts on to finding Daniel, and that means that I've been utilizing every bit of this money since day one. You guys helped me remain in Arizona. You guys helped me with my boots on the ground. You guys helped me with the gas and things I need to get around to do. Try to do follow leads and things like that. Do my own investigation, as well as you guys have been playing for the thousands of flyers that we've been putting out all across the country, and as well as the billboards that was on the east side of Phoenix, all the way to the west side of Phoenix, out towards Buckeye. You guys have been this funding has helped also with the search efforts, you know, with the equipment and things like that to keep the searches going for those 45 weeks. So I really appreciate you guys. It's still an ongoing effort. You guys see I have a $350,000 goal I'm trying to reach. We are almost there. Thank you guys for all of you to have participated in donating your monies and donating your funds. I really appreciate that as well. Again, go back to the Please Help Find Daniel website as well. You got the volunteer the search tab. I should have gone back to that. I'll go back to that. Well, I already clicked on it, but it'll take you to this page here. The music will come on. I'll pause that for a second here. But the music here, you go, guys. You see on the top here is search for Daniel, February 25th, 2023. You just click this button here, and like I said, just take it to Eventbrite where you can sign in. I definitely need you guys to do that because I have an agreement with the landowners. They want a pretty much a rough head count of the people that will be showing up in the searches. So that helps me out a lot. Okay, again, if you go back to the top, back to the main screen, if you came onto the website, I'm going to start off from this point. You can also see that this is a volunteer in other ways tab. This is very crucial for those who live in other countries or do not live in Arizona and just want to help out. You guys can sign this information here where we ask for your skill sets. That definitely help with the foundation as well. That's some more information. Once you fill out the form, you hit the nets and go on and go on. But it's very good for upcoming foundation, and we need skill sets. We have everybody. I tell you guys, some people did this about 6-7 months ago. They said, "Hey, Mr. Robinson, we already did this form. Nothing happened yet. We still have your skill sets. We're just getting the foundation, everything rolling, and eventually we will be reaching out to many people who we get to try to get to help us in this foundation effort." So definitely that's what volunteer in other ways tab, and also again you have the print flyer tab, of course the PDF there for those who decide, oh, okay, I have a little issue there, I'll get that fixed. But there's a PDF tab for those who want to print those flyers out themselves. Again, if you can't print them out, you also can go to please help find Daniel at yahoo.com, send us an email requesting those flyers, and we will have someone to send that out to you. We have our treasurer, the Daniel Ross Foundation, will send those out. So thank you guys for that intention of this. I want to go ahead and stroll down what I want to get to, you guys. And let's see, I like I'm missing some things here. Yeah, I'm missing a lot of things right here, but I had to go through this website. Okay, hold on. So let me go back home to the home screen because I am having some issues here. I just see that now, and that is not good because I brought you guys on here. But it's supposed to have all the information there dealing with the search efforts that's coming up as well as so again, if you guys can go on right now, the volunteer tab, because I don't think I see it working. I have some issues there I have to go look into now that I came onto the website that I was unaware of until this moment. But yes, volunteer, and it will take you to the tab to search. So I'm going to find out what happened to the website later on tonight once I get off this Q&A, because that's really disturbing to me right now. I just noticed that a lot of information is missing, things that was there before, you guys. But again, it had the information, had the I will be having to back up there again the letter that I wrote out to law enforcement to join the search. I don't know how those things disappeared off my website. And really had to go look deep into that. Had to talk to the people who work with my website to find out what happened. So you guys saw that this morning. All the information was there, but magically right now it's gone. So sorry, you guys. I wasn't aware of it until just now. So if those who was looking for that and wasn't able to do so, that's the reason. But you can hit the events tab at the top, and it will take you to Eventbrite. Go to Eventbrite if you want to join in on the searches. Go to Eventbrite and come down to right here, this area here, public search for Daniel, and the information is here for you to be able to join in on the search. All you do is reserve your spot. That would give us the indication of people who come in. Your name will be there. Information, we'll know you coming. You'll be part of that number. And like I said, right now, I'm thinking 180 some people still trying to get 200 to come out to the search. I'm sure there'll be more that's coming out, those who haven't signed up yet. But definitely, if you guys can do that, I really appreciate that. So again, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start the Q&A. Thank you guys for listening to this point, the first point. I will be fixing that website. We'll be fixing that tonight. We'll be contacting the folks that works on my website to find out what happened. I don't know if the website got hacked, somebody deleted those things off, just those specific things, but they were there this morning, and but we will check into that. So thank you guys, and I'll make sure that information is back up there for you, so we can go further from that point. But thank you so much. God bless you guys. We'll see you on the other end. When the lights and camera turn off, I will be here. When the interest and conversation fade, I will be here. When there's no one around, a father will do anything it takes to be there for his son, to protect his family.
Daniel Robinson went missing 4 months ago. This is the last photo his family has of him. He's a 24-year-old geologist, last seen leaving his job site in Buckeye, Arizona.
As the Gabby Petito homicide case garners national attention, another young person has been missing for nearly 3 months, and his family is desperate to find him. 24-year-old Daniel Robinson, a geologist, was last seen on the morning of June 23rd, leaving his work site in the desert of Buckeye, Arizona.
David Robinson had only one thought on his mind as he drove the nearly 1,800 miles from his South Carolina home to Phoenix.
I had to find my son. And I will continue to search for him. Thank you guys for coming in this evening's Q&A. I'm David Robinson. I'm the father of geologist Daniel Cornelius Robinson. My son Daniel is a native of South Carolina. He graduated from the College of Charleston in the field of geology. My son decided to go out to Arizona to start his career, start his life in geology. He landed his first job immediately upon arriving to Phoenix, Arizona, with an engineering company called Matrix New World. It's also called Matrix Southwest Groundwater. You guys know that my son has his job entails him being, they hired him on as a field geologist. Also, they call him a hydrogeologist, but his job is to go out into various well sites all across Arizona. He gets assigned to these well sites, whether it be 1 or 2 a day. But he gets assigned to those well sites to do assessment of well sites. He checked the viability of those wells. As a scientist, his job is to determine if those wells can indeed produce at least 100 years of water. That is something that's required by law in the state of Arizona. It's a desert state, and water is crucial. Water is a very crucial element of that state. Also, that water had to be drinkable. So his job, his company, also have those waters tested as well to make sure it's actual drinking water. My son on June the 23rd was sent out to 2 well sites. He had 2 assignments to go. He went to the first well site where my son, according to his job, didn't meet anyone at that well site, but he did, according to his phone, took some pictures of logs from that well site. I don't know what the outcome of that was, whether he sent it to someone or it's something that he just did for himself. But my son was able to do that. At the same time, I got a story from the company that he's supposed to be meeting another person at the second well site, just one other person from an outside company called Weber Waterworks, where he would be meeting a representative there to work on that well site for the remainder of the day. My son, according to this worker, that's when the story begins. According to that worker, my son met him out on Sun Valley Parkway. Both well sites and well sites are in Buckeye, Arizona. But he met this worker out on Sun Valley Parkway, which is outside of the Sonoran Desert. They met on the roadway. He was already at the well site that morning. He met my son out on the roadway. He said they had a brief conversation at the gate. My son followed him into that desert. They drove 1 mile west and 2 miles north, where they arrived at this well site at 9 o'clock a.m. According to this worker, they had a discussion about the weather. My son wanted to go home to rest, he says. And eventually, my son waved off to him and to never be seen again. As you guys know, almost 30 days later, his vehicle showed up in a ravine almost 3 miles away from that well site. It was turned it was turned on the side. and there was clothing that appeared to be Daniel's 3 feet away from the vehicle inside of a pile. That clothes to this day have not been tested to see if it is. We not recognize it as a family, but nevertheless, the clothes were found about 3 feet away from the vehicle. Also, there's the boots on the ground that should belong to Daniel as well. And again, my son have never been seen again. As you guys know, I have been out into Arizona on since June the 26th in search of my son. I was the one that put in the missing person report when my son went missing. I initially tried to put in a report with Tempe, Arizona. My son was a resident of Tempe at the time. He started off in Phoenix, but he moved to Tempe, where he was a resident of Tempe at the time he went missing. So I reached out to the Tempe Police Department, who denied to do a report or accept the report. Once I mentioned the word White Tank Mountains, I didn't know. They asked me where he was last seen. I said he's supposed to be working at a White Tank Mountains. They directed me over to the Buckeye Police Department, where I had tried to put the missing person report in. The Buckeye Police Department told me, hey, I had to wait 12 hours before I can report, which I was 3 hours short of that. So I had to wait 3 hours before I can put in a report. Crucial moments, crucial hours that can make a big difference into finding my son or not. Once I was able to put in that missing person report, I talked to Officer Cruz, who kept in great contact with me that night. He was a night officer. He went and do some due diligence by calling some of the workers to get the story, as well as talk to Ken, the last person who actually saw my son at the well site. He reported back to me to tell me some of the findings, as well as he told me that he was going to go out that night on Sun Valley Parkway. That's when I first heard the word Sun Valley Parkway, to go up and down in that area to see if he's on the side of the road, stuck on the side of the road, his vehicle. I was relieved of that until I heard from the company, because I've been doing my due diligence myself, until I heard from that company, who said that no, he was actually went they last seen in the desert, in the Sonoran Desert. I got word, being a veteran who's been working in the desert in Afghanistan. I understand the dangers of the desert, of being out there by yourself. And so I definitely wanted them to go out immediately to search for my son with a helicopter. That was denied because the officer told me it was night. They would not have a night chopper to go out, but they would do so in the morning. After corresponding with Officer Cruz the entire night, he had to go off his shift. There was a second officer came in. I believe his last name was Haley at the time. He told me that he was going to uh, um, continue on the search for Daniel. He told me that he also, as for that request for the helicopter flight, he told me that they will be going out to utilize the helicopter to go search for Daniel. I was relieved of that, hearing that story, but he quickly called me back within hours after that and told me, hey, that the flight plan was canceled. It was unauthorized because his higher ups felt that Daniel's a grown man. If he wanted to disappear on his own, he can. Those crucial moments right there was missed as well. My son is missing to this date because of those decisions, those assumptions by the Buckeye Police Department. Of course, that didn't settle right with me. Being a person who's been a victim of police brutality, plus all the things that goes on in this country when it comes to law enforcement and people of color, I understood their position. I understood their reluctance, and also their assumption. They was not willing to go out looking for Daniel, so I had to go do it myself. I grabbed everything I can without thought, and grabbed everything I can through my vehicle and started headed west out into Arizona. While driving to Arizona, I've been doing my due diligence, still working with the law enforcement, still trying to get all the information I can, working with the family as well as the company, tried to locate Daniel as I traveled. Once I got near Phoenix, I did get a call from my auntie who lived in Pennsylvania. She reached out to me very excited. David, we have the bird. David, we have the bird. She was very excited. I was very excited with her. She said, hey, they're sending out this Phoenix Firebird helicopter out to search for Daniel. I don't know what she said to them to finally get them, convince them, Buckeye Police Department, to send someone out there. But the point is, that was almost 3 days after Daniel went missing. That was problematic. At the time, I was happy that they was going out, but it didn't dawn on me until once I got to Arizona how crucial those moments before that point was. Very, very crucial to find my son. Once I arrived on the ground, I grabbed my daughter, who also lived in Phoenix at the time. She and I did our due diligence as well. Reached out to the companies, again, working with the Buckeye Police Department, giving them everything we can. We went to go meet with them as well as going out to various areas all across Arizona. One thing for sure, though, we know Daniel. We know that he would tell us everywhere he go. He would not go somewhere without letting his family know, his friends. We still did our due diligence just in case. We all over Arizona searching for him. Even in the airport, Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. I didn't know how huge it was, but we went to every single parking space in that airport. We spent money back and forth coming into that gate to try to locate Daniel's vehicle if he had took a flight. We know that he didn't have any passports, but we still wanted to make sure that he didn't take a flight and his vehicles at the airport or one of the adjacent parking lots from the other companies that's outside for parking. Also, we went to the Red Cross, which was closed at the time because of COVID, and also we went to reach out to the NAACP, try to find any kind of help that we can to try to start to a point of someone that we can trust, someone we can know outside of law enforcement as well, to try to help locate Daniel. Of course, you guys know I had did, like I said, close talks with the Buckeye Police Department. Once I was able to sit down with them, they brought me and my daughter into an interrogation room. I never been in an interrogation room before in my life, but I recognized it hindsight because of something I saw on television. But I didn't know at the time. But they did put my daughter and I took us through a back door, put us into the interrogation room, and had us to sit there and answer some questions about Daniel's cell phone records and his bank statements. We was able to show the officers, two officers, Daniel's bank statement, my daughter, his cell phone records. My daughter's phone, she owned the line to Daniel's phone, so she was able to show some of the things off of her cell phone. Also, as well as myself, was able to contact USAA Bank. I'm a veteran. My son is a sponsor. I'm a sponsor for my children for the USAA, and was able to get some limited information about Daniel's account at the time. So I was able to do that on speakerphone. So that's the way they say they obtained these phone records and also these banks records. There wasn't no physical sent to them. The guys looked at it from across the table on their phones and listened in on a phone call and made a report. Also, the Buckeye Police Department then, like I said, you guys, we asked for, hey, we know that Daniel's cell phone was ringing the entire day, was making phone calls to try to locate him as a family, and the phone rang. So we know he had service. We know he had service. We called until that phone died. And so we asked for cell phone pings. The Buckeye Police Department told us, well, they told us they were going to get the cell phone pings, and then they quickly came back and said, no, we're not going to be able to do that. Because if we was to apply for it, we need a warrant, and if we apply for it, the judge would not give them a warrant to go get cell phone pings. So we asked for, hey, maybe you can get some footage of him driving over to the first well site as well as the second well site on the road, because we do know the roads, the traffic lights and things have cameras. They said they were not able to find any time that Daniel was driving that day. So I got cynical and I asked him, hey, well, find any date where my son was riding around Arizona. He'd been in Arizona at the point over 2 years. Let's see something. They still couldn't produce that. We later also found that Daniel had we thought was a OnStar, but it's actually a Uconnect in his Jeep. We asked for that information as well to say, hey, look, we can locate him in a time for his Uconnect. They first told us that, hey, they couldn't get anything from the Uconnect. Then they later said yes, they could. They called the Uconnect company there, and they got something back, but it's all zero grids. Everything that we tried to get the location of Daniel, the Buckeye Police Department had excuses to the reasons why they couldn't produce anything that would show where Daniel was located or where he was moving around Arizona. So, of course, you guys have been working from that point, going up to Sun Valley Parkway almost every day. In between time, standing at that gate, I was going to go in the gate with my car. Of course, I was alerted by the Buckeye Police Department telling me, hey, it was not wise for me to go out in that desert. They tell me how dangerous how the terrain is up and down. It may look flat from the road, but it's not. I still was thinking about going in the way, but I end up being listening to what they had to say because I have experience in Afghanistan when it comes to desert terrain. I know how serious it can be, and I want to make sure that when I go out there, I'll be effective of finding Daniel. But I use my binoculars every day to stand on the side of the road and try to see if I can see him from afar. It looked like it's flat from the road, so I utilize my binoculars to do so. That wasn't satisfactory to me. I wanted to also, in those first days when I got there, the second day I got into Arizona, also I wanted to meet the person who said my son magically just walked away to never be seen again. I didn't believe the story then. I don't believe it now. I wanted to see this man and look him dead in the eye, and he got to tell me exactly what I heard from Officer Cruz at the time. And when I did, set up some arrangements with Daniel's job, his company. His company got me in touch with set it up where I met him on Sun Valley Parkway, probably similar to where Daniel met him out there on that side of the road. I had two witnesses with me as well. My daughter's one, and first got there to the gate. The guy knew I was coming. I called the company and said, "Hey, I'm outside the gate." They called him and let him know I was out there. He didn't show up. He sent someone else out there first, some guy, the heavyset guy, out there. I thought it was Ken at the time. I introduced myself. He said he is not. He just started asking me questions. Why do I want to speak to him? I told him the reason why. Hey, I just have questions about, he was the last person to see my son. I just wanted to be able to talk to him about it. The guy then acting very suspicious. He had a white pickup truck, and the first thing he did, he said, "Hey, look." After a while, he had, I don't know, all this trash or whatever was in his vehicle. He started pushing it off the seat and things like that on the passenger side. "Hey, I'll just take you down there to talk to Ken. How far is it?" He said, "Oh, it's about 5-10 miles." That's what he's saying, 5 to 10 miles away down in the desert. I'm like, "No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to leave these two ladies here at the gate." No, he said, "No, come on." He kind of pretty much tried to beg me to come with him in the sense of, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm not leaving these ladies here at the gate." He later decided to say, "Okay, well, he's going to call Ken, I guess." He got on his cell phone and he was talking to Ken on the phone. I was in earshot of his conversation. I was really trying to listen in. He then left his door open, but he put the vehicle in drive, and drove forward out of earshot. Had his conversation with Ken, and then he backed up to the gate again, and then he said, "Oh, well, Ken said he's going to be on the way up here." So he disappeared, left, went into the desert. A little while later, Ken showed up. Ken came up to the gate. The first thing Ken did when he got the vehicle, he opened up his utility box. He had a utility truck. He reached his hand in there. Being a military guy, the first thing we do is watch people's hands. And one of his hands, his gesture and his body movements was saying that he felt threatened somehow, I guess. He dig his hand into the glove compartment, into that compartment, and I thought he was going to pull out a weapon, but he didn't. I explained who I was, what I want to talk to him about. He started relaxing a little bit, and he told me the story verbatim. And when I say verbatim, it was exactly how Officer Cruz told me. He met my son at the gate, like I told you guys, and also my son, how he followed him into that well site. They got there at 9 o'clock, and my son was gone. In brief conversation, he said if he knew the mannerism of my son, he would know that something was wrong. That's how he put it. And he was going through the story. After a while, he said, "Oh man," just kept feeling, "Oh man, I wish I could have did something or do this and that." And I said, "Man, hey, it's not your fault." Tried to do this tactic I learned in the military to make him feel I was befriending him. When I did so, that's when he got loose tongue and started telling me more. The thing was, he said, "Hey, I stayed." He went over the story again. He stayed left of the tracks so he didn't disturb them from the well site. There was no thing of him going to the T junction where he saw the tracks. From what he was telling me, he followed tracks from the well site. He got to the T junction because he stayed left of the tracks. He got to the T junction and he saw the tracks going left. But he did also mention that he noticed things was going. The police was going to come looking. This thing's going to get large and it's going to go national. Those are his sentiments of what happened. I was in earshot. My witness was there as well to hear this comments. He went through the story of how he went to go look for Daniel right after he left. He told me he drove, like I said, to that T junction. He saw tracks going out west, and so he followed them. So he left for those tracks. He made it to this gate. He got out of his vehicle, opened the gate, went another mile through that gate. He got out of the vehicle, walked on foot for a good distance. He walked on top of a hilly area, and he looked to see if he could see him from afar. And then he took upon himself to take a can of red paint and spray paint some rocks with red paint to alert show officers where the tracks led to. That type deal. So you guys, the story didn't match up. As you guys know, in my investigation, one thing about his story, he said he was there at 9 o'clock with my son. My son left at 9:15, but the phone records shows something different. My son, first of all, texted him. He called my son that morning. My son missed a call from him. He left a voicemail asking my son not to come up there because of some fueling issue. Fuel truck didn't show up. My son called back according to his cell phone. He called back. It was a quick call. It wasn't long enough to even have a conversation. It was obviously a missed call because it wasn't any seconds into that call. If I'm not mistaken, I'll go back over it. He called again. My son missed call. My son called again. Same difference. No time left on it, so it wasn't a conversation that happened in minutes. But my son ended up texting him from that point and say, "Hey, how do you get to this location?" And Ken did not give him an answer back. There was no text message back, no response back to that text message. There was no phone calls after that point until 9:28. Ken said my son was gone by 9:15, but my son called according to his phone. It was a call at 9:28. Too, I would not give a length of time because it's a part of the investigation, but it was a length of time on that call. And so from that point, like I said, you guys, his story don't match the cell phone records. It don't match a lot of things. But tonight, I want to go. The reason why I'm going back over that story again, you guys, because there's a lot of things that happened in my son's case. It's far from a cold case. As you guys know, all the information that my investigator and myself collected from about the vehicle is a stage event. My investigator also found a sock that belonged to my son closer to the well site that shouldn't have been there. But that was after the Buckeye Police Department collected everything on the scene from that crash. That's almost 3 miles away from the well site, longer farther than that. But he collected a sock that belonged to a sock that was collected by the Buckeye Police Department in evidence bags that suggests that something happened near the well site. But the thing is, you guys, the Buckeye Police Department refused to do that. They refused to move over to a possible criminal case at the time, despite physical evidence of possible foul play. The vehicle definitely wasn't there, and that's according to the Buckeyes Police Department's own searches, as well as the testimony of the guy who found the vehicle, and also the damage on the vehicle from my investigator, the physical evidence of the vehicle, 11 additional miles, and so on and so on. All that information came from my investigator, you guys. It didn't. None of that stuff came from the Buckeye. The only thing that came from the Buckeye Police Department is their refusal to accept hard physical evidence of foul play. They refused to do it for whatever reason. I have those reasons why. There's a lot of conflict of interest going on in the Buckeye Police Department when it comes to my son's case, and you understand those reasons why. But the thing is, my investigator found all those things and gave it over to the Buckeye Police. We contemplated for a long time, for a few days, on saying, "Hey, look, we don't trust the Buckeye Police Department for things we found, but we need law enforcement." He's a private investigator. Private investigators only can go but so far. They're private citizens as well, and so we was reluctantly, but he was able to meet with the Buckeye Police Department to give them the information that we had collected, the physical evidence. Instead of them accepting and embracing it and finding my son and turning this thing into a criminal case the way it should be, foul play, they decided to rebut it. They decided to shut down. They stopped talking to me as a father. They stopped dealing with me. They stopped having communication with me as well. That's when the relationship between myself and the Buckeye Police Department started going the other direction. Instead of them helping me in the searches and utilizing their funds to help in the searches, they decided to hire their own private investigator just to rebut all the physical, tangible evidence that my investigator found. This investigator that they hired is a PI as well. He's also an accident reconstructionist, as my investigator at the time is an accident reconstructionist who's been doing this for years, and he had the physical evidence and the reasons why. And based on their own information that they gave him the black box data, they just didn't know how to read it. My investigator read it out to them. But this investigator that they hired, supposed to be this renowned investigator, have never seen my son's vehicle, never touched it, never physically examined my son's vehicle, but yet made a full report about something he have never seen. Also, didn't have the due diligence to go to the manufacturers about the discrepancies on the mileage or the 11 additional mile issue that they had about the vehicle, where it come from. He decided to go to a local dealership with regular workers that work at a dealership to say, to rebut, use a opinion of a dealership worker, opinion about the mileage difference, to bolster his story. Again, you guys, those are the things that the Buckeye Police Department have done, as well as turn over their vehicle to me. The day they didn't alert me when the vehicle was found, though I was out there with hundreds of volunteers on the ground in the searches out there searching for my son, to find him, to locate him. They know I was out there. I was asking them to join my searches. Instead of them telling me when the vehicle was found on July the 19th, almost 30 days after my son went missing, they told the rancher who found it not to alert me or my family. Do not alert the news media, because they want to keep this thing a secret for whatever reason. They didn't tell me about the vehicle being found for almost over 24 hours later. And the excuses when I got angry about that was, we didn't want to disturb your sleep. That was very problematic for me, you guys, as well as the fact that those department not only dishonored me as a father. They didn't bring us to the scene to show us where the vehicle was found, but they brought me into the parking lot of the police department. They didn't allow me into the building and gave me a debriefing about what happened to my son's vehicle. They gave me two things. He pulled out two things. He pulled out two maps and one picture, and described what happened to my son. First with the picture, with the mapping showing where the vehicle was located on the map, and then he showed me a picture of the vehicle. One picture of the vehicle crashed on the side, and told me his theories about what they feel happened to Daniel. As you guys know, his first theory was that, hey, Mr. Robinson, your son flipped the vehicle, flipped the roll, and he was moving his hands around, flipped the roll and twisted it and things, and it landed on the side in a 20-foot ravine. Your son, the good part is your son did not sustain any injuries, because he had a seatbelt. We could tell he had a seatbelt locked because it had a seatbelt on. The way the seatbelt locks once a vehicle get in an accident, it stays in that position somehow. And then he told me that at the same time was saying, hey, look, your son sustained a severe head injury, a brain injury. And he kicked his way out of the sunroof. That's where the glass come from. He kicked his way out of the sunroof. And because of the head injury, head injuries make you hot, make you feel like you're burning up. So he shredded his clothes off. That's why his clothes was in a pile away from the vehicle. He most likely from that point went to go hide up on a tree to cool off somewhere, and got taken by wild animals or something. So come to his injuries and got taken away by wild animals. That was very devastating to hear. He then had me to follow him over to a compound. I thought he was going to show me where the vehicle was located, was found at, but no, he took me to a compound to see the vehicle. Okay, follow him to the compound. He let me in through the side gate. Once we started coming around the building to get to this compound area where the vehicles are stored, he stopped me. He told me about a story about some family. He said, I've seen this before. Family think a person is missing, but it's not. He told me a story about some family thought one of their loved ones was missing. Turned out she wanted to be a nun, and she left to be a nun. He then said, hey, not necessarily this is about your son, but maybe he decided to leave your family. He wanted to be alone and join a monastery, become a monk. Those are things I had to hear first. It didn't register to me because I was so nervous about seeing this vehicle at the time. But once we got through this gate, he opened his gate up and he pointed out with all these red vehicles. He pointed out and said, hey, that's your son's vehicle right there. I saw it for the first time. I was devastated, you guys. I was hurt. I was crushed. I was devastated. Didn't know how to move. I was stunned. I couldn't even get my muscles to move in my body. He kept saying to me, going over there and open the door, go over there and look in it, go over there and look at it from a distance. I couldn't move. So he started walking. I started walking with him. We walked in about 3 feet away from the vehicle. He said, hey, lift the airbags, go and look on in there, because the airbags hanging out the driver's door. It's not that I was being smart. I was just stunned. I couldn't move. I couldn't move my muscle. So he lifted the airbag up and he pointed out and said, hey, you can go ahead and stick your head in there and look or whatever. I would not do that. He opened the back door. I did see a NYPD bag sitting on the back seat. I asked him what that was. And he picked it up. He said, I don't know. He picked it up and he just dumped all the contents out of it on the back seat. and asked me to go ahead and look. And I'd say, hey, look, dude, I had enough. I need to get out of here. Well, you need to get this vehicle out here today. If you don't, we're going to have it towed away and you have to pay storage fees. It was horrible at the moment when I was trying to get my thoughts together, my feelings together, my emotions together. And that's the thing I had to worry about from the law enforcement is getting that vehicle out immediately. I asked a grown man, pretty much begging for them to hold the vehicle at least 3 days. I just got here to Arizona. I don't know much about Arizona. I don't know about his creditors. I need to find out who need to come get this vehicle. Can you hold it for me? He agreed to it. I knew there was going to be some possible some rain. I asked them, can I put a tarp on it? They say they would do it themselves for me. And that was when Mr. Larnell Farmer, who will be coming in just shortly, he just on the back room there, came in. He contacted me, I contacted him, and let him know that I had a upcoming meeting. God bless that I so happened to have a meeting with Chief Hall, the Buckeye Police Department, through some sources who was able to set the meeting up with the law enforcement, Buckeye law enforcement, and Mr. Farmer asked, could he join in as an observer? Of course, is very helpful to me, being that I was going to a law enforcement office in a boardroom of law enforcement with no one. Mr. Farmer stayed by my side. He went there. He didn't say a word, but he observed and listened. I recorded the conversations as well with my devices, and we had this meeting. That's when I started learning you guys all the information I'm telling you guys where they didn't do any forensics. They said they didn't do any forensics on the scene. Why they didn't check for blood? Because they didn't see with their eyes any blood in a vehicle. How you know the vehicle, what blood was in the vehicle is the question I had. How you know he was driving? The answer to that was, it's his vehicle. Of course he was driving. That type cynical type stuff that I had to receive from the Buckeye Police Department. After the meeting, you guys, that's when the detective stopped me and said, hey, look, where are you parked? I told him where I was parked. He said I would be out there shortly. He pulled up in his pickup truck, gave me everything from that scene in evidence bags marked for safekeeping. I didn't know what safekeeping was at the time. I didn't even read the markings. But at that point, after hearing it from everything in that meeting, I knew I needed to get my own private investigator. That's when I hired Mr. McGrath to come in, and I handed all those things over to him exactly the way they gave it to me. But when he received it, immediately he looked at the tag and he explained that to me. Ms. Robinson, they marked it for safekeeping. There was check boxes there for evidence, and some marked for safekeeping. It was marked for safekeeping because despite they saying they believe that Daniel had a head injury, severe head injury, which is an endangered person. Despite that the vehicle wasn't there for 30 days, it just showed up in that desert. Despite all the things that they knew, they felt like he's going to come back and grab his things. Here's his things. So it was very heartless from the Buckeye Police Department, the way they damaged my son's case by breaking the chain of custody and so on and so on. I can keep going on, you guys. And that's the reason why, hindsight, you guys, where I started this protesting efforts. And the protesting efforts came because, again, protesting effort came from the lack of help. I reached out to FBI. I reached out to Department of Justice. I reached out to everybody I can because of the things I have found out in my investigation. Like I said, conflict of interest that you guys will find out pretty soon. But there's some things I found out about the investigation as well. Investigating the Buckeye Police Department myself. You guys know they have a record of falsifying reports. I have a lot of falsification in their reports that I've been pointing out to many. So there's a lot going on in that. I've been asking for this thing. I found out that the Maricopa County has a hand into this because they are a jurisdiction that where my son went missing. Very, very helpful because they had that jurisdiction. That is the way I go. After going through all the streams, you guys, the different law enforcement agencies, that was the key because the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office have jurisdiction of that area where my son went missing. So I don't no longer have to say my son went missing in Buckeye. I can say my son went missing in Maricopa County. And so I want to be able to get that rolling. So that's what the protest is about, you guys. But tonight we're going to talk about that tonight. That's why I want to bring in Mr. Larnell Farmer. You guys met him before. He's been on the Q&A once before. He's on again. He's a former law enforcement himself. He does various other things. I'm going to let him introduce himself to you guys. But I'm going to bring him on right now. He's on the backstage. So thank you, Mr. Farmer, for being here this evening with me again. I think you're on mute.
There we go. Good to
There
be
you
here.
go. Yes,
Certainly,
sir.
Dad.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Certainly. Thank you for the invite. And as David said, my name is Larnell Farmer, and I am a retired police officer from just outside of Chicago in a city called Waukegan, Illinois. And I retired about 10 years ago now. And I did 23 years on the police department. And here I am out here in sunny Arizona, just enjoying this weather.
That's
I'm
right.
not cold.
That's right. That's the beautiful part. Not cold. So,
Indeed.
yeah, that's one of the things I think for myself as well. Coming out to Arizona was the good part of. Some people don't like heat. I like heat. So I was able to, like I said, I feel that sentiment about the cold weather. But yeah, thank you again, Larnell. Like I said, you have a lot more. I know you've been modest about yourself, but you do a whole lot. You do a whole lot for people. I've met you for the first time, and I learned that very quickly. From day one, you've been there by my side, and you have never left yet, not one time. You've been very reliable to my efforts to find my son, as well as doing things outside of that, going out to the desert with me, as well as just everything that you have done from day one. I really appreciate it. I tell you that in the background as well as I'm telling you now. I really appreciate everything you do.
Like I said, it's my pleasure. And I do, well, a little more. Um, I'm one of the vice presidents for our local branch of the NAACP here. And I also belong to the African American Advisory Board for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department, which, as David said, is under Sheriff Pizone. And then back home, I belong to another foundation, another group, the Ant Mound Foundation. And the one thing that all these groups have in common is that we're fighting for a cause. And it's slow, steady work, and it has its rewards, but they come slowly, as I said. But those are a few of organizations that I belong to, and again, they all have one common cause: we're fighting for other people, fighting for people's rights. And I think most people on here know exactly, or they do know about the NAACP. And I do want to give something to Sheriff Pizone. He created that board several years ago, and I was asked by another gentleman that I know if I was interested in being on that board. And at that time, it's one of those questions, well, what is the board going to do? And so, he explained some things, and then he asked me to submit a bio and my resume, which I did, and I was accepted to this board. And I've met a lot of good people on this board, and we're trying to get some things done here in Arizona. But the unfortunate part is, whether we're here in Arizona, in Illinois, New York, California, wherever, it's the same fight. And
That's right.
my membership, or me belonging to these different groups, is how I got in touch with David, by somebody else who knew me and knew what I was doing, and asked me would I mind if David reached out to me when he first got to Arizona. And without thinking, I had heard of the story about Daniel. I think I saw it someplace briefly, so I knew a little bit about it, but there was no hesitation in having my number given to David. And so here we are, 20 months later, and the fight continues.
That's right, and we're not stopped for one thing for sure. And I also want to mention out too, you're also a board member of the Daniel Robinson Foundation as well.
That's the big one.
So,
How could I forget being on here tonight?
that's
So
right.
I apologize, and I know
Yes,
our other board members. Yeah,
that's
I
right.
apologize to them too.
That's
I
right.
should have said last but not least. Good
That's right.
support now,
Oh, I
foundation.
got you. I got you. I got you all the
Yeah,
way. I'm gonna take care of that for you.
I
So,
appreciate it. Good
but
looking
yeah,
out.
but you wear a lot of hats. You wear a lot of hats. So it's a
Yeah,
lot of. So
yeah.
yeah.
But actually, man, these last couple years have been busier than that. So a couple things that I was involved with. One being back home. It was a Juneteenth celebration we were putting together. So that ended last summer. And then there was something else I was involved in, but a little bit, it slowed down some. So, have a little more time to go out in the desert and shoot and other things,
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, but we're here tonight to discuss also the protest that I had scheduled for the 18th. As you all probably know, I'm talking to the audience now. You probably saw on the beginning of this Q&A, I changed the date. I put on there as it's postponed, pending. And the reason why I put postpone pending is because of the conversation I had with the Maricopa County today. And through our conversations, I decided to postpone. It's not something that I threw out the window, but it's postponed for now, pending our discussions that we're having behind the scenes. So that's something to me. I'm looking at it as a step forward, and I'm really happy about the step forward today. Talking with the representative of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. As you guys know, I tell you this on Q&A as a personal person, Sheriff Pazone. I thought a lot of him. Larnell, you was there when I first met with Sheriff Pazone. Very attentive. He took his time out, first of all, to sit down with us and have a discussion. But his staff was there to take notes, very interested in what we said. They gave us a lot of leeway to say, hey, they're going to try to do everything he can to help on his end. But the biggest part that touched me the most, like I said before, is the fact that Sheriff Pazone, once we got downstairs, he told me he wanted to be meeting him outside alone. And one of the things he did was a lot bigger than what I have experienced from law enforcement from the time I came into Arizona, is that he is almost like something that we do in the military. When I was talking to my first sergeant, for instance, on an occasion where he took the rank off his chest and put it in his pocket or threw it on the ground or something and say, hey, I'm not the first sergeant right now. We having a man-to-man talk. And that's the way I took Sheriff Pazone when he sat there and talked with me that day outside. He gave me, first of all, gave condolences to what happened to me and my family. He talked about his wife, how they are spiritual people as well. And he prayed. He said he's going to pray for my family, as well as you guys know something else that he was able to give to me as well. But the whole point is that's the first impression that I got from Sheriff Pazone, that he's a person that of his word. That's what I was thinking at the time. Hey, look, he's a man of his word. And also he's a person that actually shows some empathy to what was going on to the first time I heard law enforcement actually do that in Arizona. So that was really big and very huge to me. So I just want to point that out first. But at the same time, being a father and being out here searching for Daniel, my thoughts and my feelings, I don't put feelings into this thing. I'm putting efforts into this thing. I'm putting what I'm supposed to do as a father into this thing. I have to fight for my son's honor. I have to fight for justice for him. And it don't mean that just because I think of highly of a person that they can just relax and don't move, because I think about them as a personal person, my opinions. But I look at the actions. I look at the body and the whole, that type deal. And there's some things. That's the reason why you guys heard me say, "Hey, look, I'm starting this protest," and because you guys know what led up to that, and to go ahead and have a protest at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and that's only because they have that jurisdiction and they can do some things to take my son case farther.
Correct. And as you stated, I was there that day when the first time we met with Sheriff Pinzone. And I don't know if people outside of, this community outside of the state really know what he came into when he was elected as sheriff. Because the former sheriff, Joe Arpaio, he was American sheriff and all that other stuff. That's a whole different political animal. But Sheriff Pinzone inherited a big mess because Sheriff Joe was the type of person that did exactly what he wanted to do when he wanted to do. And there were all kind of court proceedings against him. He was being sued by people, agencies, all of this stuff. So again, that's what Sheriff Pinzone inherited. So that's when I first became aware of Sheriff Pinzone the first time he ran, because I started getting information about him, to support him, this, that, and the other. So that was my first time, like I said, seeing him on TV and, throughout, different media things. And then when we met him, he did come off as being really, really sincere. And the sad part was that was last summer. The saddest part was that was right around a year since Daniel had disappeared. And again, the saddest part about that was he was really the first one that really listened to us, that actually sat down and showed some compassion, showed some empathy. And like I said, just sat there and listened. He had his staff in the room and all of that. So when we left that meeting, we had a good feeling. And unfortunately, as time passes, especially with people in those positions, trying to line things up with other departments, other heads of those departments, it took time for us to get to where we are now. And here we are in 2023. And, Sheriff is putting together some things, some positive things. And we're hoping and praying that, they proceed and they lead to bigger things,
Right.
because as you and I discussed earlier today, there's a new head of DPS of the Department of Public Safety, the state
That's right.
troopers here. And
Right.
we know him personally. And, there's a new governor. So, we have some ends to the governor, maybe some
Right.
loose ends, but, all of this stuff. And what we're looking for is just some help. And that's
That's
not
it.
asking too much.
That's it.
And if Buckeye would have done what they were supposed to do from day one, maybe we wouldn't be here with our hands out, essentially begging for somebody else to come in and help us do what Buckeye should have done from the beginning. As we had discussed many times, and I think most people on this on here tonight, they know what Buckeye has done and what Buckeye has not done.
That's
And
right.
again, it's a shame that we're in this place now. And then and then I think you and I discussed it a little bit earlier. Going back to this morning's Q&A with Mr. Pooley, police work. I love what Mr. Pooley was saying this morning, especially when he said that, working on a homicide, emotions are involved, emotions,
Right.
because of what's going on that particular scene. So you got to get outside of the emotions. And I like it when he said he has somebody look him right in the eye, calm them down so we can get to the facts, so you can get to that point where outside of the emotions, I need this information. It may be hurtful for you to answer these questions, but these are questions I need to ask so I can move further in this investigation.
That's
And
right.
what he said this morning spoke volumes as to what a caring, compassionate police officer, a detective, somebody working on a case looks like. So
That's right.
going by what Mr. Pooley said this morning and seeing, and I know what it looks like, and then seeing what Buckeye has done from day one, it's like a 360-degree difference, completely
Right.
different. Buckeye, everything that they've done is horrible police work. And I mean horrible in the worst sense. They've shown no empathy, no compassion, no sympathy, no anything for you or your family, let alone really getting out there and doing an investigation and finding out what happened to Daniel. And so
That's right.
once again, here we are. What is this, February 8th, 2023? We're no further along from the police standpoint than we were day one.
Exactly. And that's the thing, you're right. That the empathy and concern. I have gotten a lot of it's strange to me, and this from other countries as well. Law enforcement everywhere that's been watching Daniel's case. Of course, Daniel's case went nationally. We have people in Russia, a gentleman from Russia, some from the of course, the Netherlands as well as South Africa and also United Kingdoms and things like that. Just different countries. People have been reaching out. I mean, and this is law enforcement from all over the country here in the United States as well as Canada. Been reaching out from the law enforcement side now, apologizing. I have never heard law enforcement apologize to me as if they were somehow responsible for what Buckeye have done. They say, "Hey, look, man, this is not policing. I don't want you to get no bad taste in your mouth about policing, but this is not how it's done." They had the same sentiment that you just had as well. So I've been hearing that also from my investigator when he came on board. When I first hired him, he started off with an apology because he saw things that was done incorrectly. But that still goes back to what I was saying a lot of times on this Q&A, Larnell, is that my thoughts on that is you cannot say you're a good cop as an organization. Sometimes I hate hearing this because people threw this at me before. There's some bad apples in the department. Yeah, that's true. There are some bad officers in there, but there are some good ones too. At the same time, that whole department is only good as the link. You know what I'm saying? If there's some bad links there and you're okay with that link being bad and you haven't done anything about it, or if you see another law enforcement agency out there doing the wrong thing and you're not doing anything about it, you're still law enforcement. There's no such thing that blue stuff. You see something going on and you're not saying anything or doing something to correct that or correct those folks, you're a bad officer too. Because you cannot consciously in your mind be able to sit back as an organization and see things going wrong and not doing everything you can humanistically possible in the confines of the law to help. And if you don't do that and you can find ways to do it. Because like we said before, If there was a police cruiser sitting out there in that desert, in that ravine, there was a police uniform in the pile right there with everything on his body, his computer, work computer, whatever they use in their vehicle sitting out there, they would not treat this case the same way they're treating Daniels. Would not be saying, hell, he just had some head injury, he straight his clothes, and well, here's his things to the family. It would have never happened. Every jurisdictional thing you could think of would go out the window, because there would be law enforcement agencies from all across this country raining down into Buckeye, Arizona, just to find this officer out there in that desert. I know that for a fact. They have burned so much resources, millions of dollars of resources, just to find the officer or his children. So I don't hear those excuses. They can do very good job when it comes to who they want to do it for and why they want to do it for. But when it comes to a young man, a geologist, not so much as having a speeding ticket, he's not the perfect guy in this world, but he's a human being. It's a person, and that his case should be treated the same as that way that any law or any case, all cases should be treated the same way. So that's what the thing I'm saying when it comes to that. And here, these law enforcement agencies out there have to give those apologies. That's sad. That's sad when they have to go out of their way just to apologize to me for what Buckeye done. I haven't heard an apology from Buckeye. We've been to city council. We looked the city manager in the eye, looked the mayor in the eye, the assistant mayor in the eye, the whole city council members up there on that board looking like stone. And not one time they apologized. Not one time they thanked me for my searches finding human remains, bringing closure to other people's families. No, not one time showing the concern and support. They didn't even give me a sympathy. Say, hey, Ms. Robinson, I'm sorry that you're going through this. Anything. But that's what comes out of Buckeye, and that's the impression I got. Just like I got a great impression at the first meeting, Sheriff Zone. That's the first impression, and all the impressions I've gotten from Buckeye.
And it's sad because when we went to those city council meetings, that's exactly what I expected. Because I know back home in Waukegan right now, there's a case where there was an officer involved. It's about 2 weeks ago, and the information is coming out really, really slow. Supposedly some guy had stolen a car or something. The officer got into a foot chase with the guy. They ended up supposedly wrestling with one another, and the young man ended up getting shot and killed. The initial statement that came out was that he shot himself with his own gun. But then the officer was put on paid administration leave, and he had his body camera off. And so that's a violation of the department's policy. So it's all this stuff. So here we are 2 weeks later, and we still don't know the name of the young man that was shot, the name of the officer, if there were any cameras around, if he actually had his body camera off at that time also. So it just goes back to good police work doesn't take a lot of effort. And you do good police work, like you said, with the cases that you want to do good on. And that's the unfortunate part, because all cases should be handled the same way.
Exactly.
With a victim in mind, with an offender in mind, and you treat them the same way. Because I know I've investigated some horrible people. I mean, I've sat in rooms with people that have killed people. I've interviewed people that I know that I just genuinely did not like, but I had a job to do. My job was to get them to confess to what they did. If no confession, build a case that we can present to a jury or to a judge and convict that person. And I've done that. And so I know what bad police work looks like, and I know what good police work looks like also. And the problem is, like you said, with this bad apple theory, and it's just, you've gotta, at some point, be able to step out of that bad orchard as a good apple and say this is wrong. And in doing that, what we need to do also as officers, as civilians, is to back people up like that, the so-called whistleblowers. There were laws on the books that are trying to they're trying to put on the books whistleblower laws to protect police officers, because there's a backlash to officers that come out against, as you said,
that. Right.
And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way because, and they always say the percentage of the bad is smaller than the good. Well, if that's the case, then the good should jump on that bad and squash them.
To squash it. That's right.
Yep.
Yes. There shouldn't be no problem with that. Right.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
But what happens is it's the whole system. And the whole system has been historically bad to where we are today. Because when it was created, the way the system was created, what it was created for,
Right.
to put his thumb on us and
Right.
to work for the rich and all of that. So that same format is here today. Case in point, those officers in Memphis, what was that, last week or 2 weeks ago?
Right.
5 black officers, well, the 5 initial ones that were on the scene that were
Right.
videoed, they beat that man to death.
Yeah.
But people don't understand how that can be considered any aspect of racism into
It
what
is.
they did. But
Right.
it still goes back to, like I said earlier, from the beginning of time when the first so-called police officers were put a badge on their chest, what their assignment was. And so it all comes into that same world. If you know about policing and you know the
The
history of
culture of
policing, you're right, the culture, exactly. You get
right.
caught up in that culture. I don't care if you're black, green, female, 2 legs, 3 legs, or whatever. You get caught up in that culture and you forget who you are. That's what happens. So those, I think it's up to maybe 9 or 10 people that were involved in that. There may be more. Their lives are ruined, and rightfully so. The EMTs that were on the scene, there were a couple sheriff's deputies that were there, the 6 Memphis police officers, and every day there's more and more information that comes out. And the simple thing is, they forgot who they were and they forgot what their job was, what their assignment was, and that's to
Right.
protect the public and
That's
not
right.
do what they did, kill the public.
And despite of, like you said, your feelings towards a person,
Exactly.
you protect
Exactly.
that person as well. Right.
Exactly. Because the thing is, anybody has a right to defend themselves.
That's right.
And, and I always, my thing was, when I go to work, I want to end my shift the same way I started my shift. I didn't want any extra scratches, no broken bones, no holes in my
That's
body.
right. That's
So
right.
if I fought with somebody, you hit me, I'm going to hit you back.
Right.
But the thing is, once the handcuffs are on, it's over, because that's the
You're
ultimate
defenseless.
purpose, is to get the handcuffs on them so you can
Right.
arrest them. But
Right.
and if they're kicking and screaming and all that stuff, you get more officers, you put them in the car, you take them, you put them in the cell, let them cool down, or whatever you need to do to get that situation under control. But too often we see these situations, and I know, and I keep hearing that policing is a tough job. Well, there are a lot of tough jobs in this world, but you don't go overboard with that toughness and all of that stuff. Bring your personal beliefs into it, your biases, and you do the things that's going to get you to lose your job and end up in prison. And we've seen in
Yep.
the last few years, more and more officers are going to prison for their criminal activity, which is it should be.
Well, one thing you point that out. I only can go relate to my military experience, and one thing I do know when I joined the military as well is that we have this thing called rules of engagement. When I
Mhm.
was in Afghanistan, spending my time out there, I don't care. These guys walk around with RPGs on their shoulders. They're allowed to carry weapons, right? And so, who's to say we're in the convoy? He was to turn it and shoot at us with that RPG. It's too late. Once he fired, it hit the vehicle, blow something up, right?
Mhm.
The thing is, but we're not allowed to shoot them because we see them with that weapon. We feel threatened. I felt threatened. I'm a gunner. I felt threatened a lot with them. I was always nervous about that when those guys held those things, just walking around. And they can have the word Taliban on their shirt or something. I don't know, on their
Mhm.
robe or whatever they wear. And we're not there to shoot them. And also we have rules to go by. We're not, we're one thing that we left to follow myself and my better buddy at the time, my best friend. We would pray. We always pray before we leave the wire. We call it the wire, leave the fob. We pray because we know that it's a good chance that we not come back. And one of the things was it wasn't that you're wondering if somebody every time you go out from the fob if somebody's going to try to kill you. No, we know they're trying to kill us. It's two different things. Not going into the public where you may be stopping somebody for a speeding ticket or whatever case, go serve a warrant or whatever case may be, and you're just wondering if somebody might try to kill you. No, we go out that far, somebody's out there trying to kill you. So, but those are times when you feel nervy, but at the same time, you don't just go out and react on those nerves. We had rules that we had to go by. We had to give warning shots. They had to get within a certain distance from us before we can. They had to shoot at us first to make a long story short before we can open fire back on them. So we had a lot of rules and engagement. A lot of these officers come out of the military, so they know those rules and engagement. I cannot understand the thought process of this thing right here. I feared for my life. We fear for our life every time we leave the fob. We don't go around killing people. So the thing is, well, of course, we have to do our job. When I say we don't go around because we're afraid our life to start shooting at people and take them out and things like that. So whole point that I'm making is a culture, is a thought that's been, like you said, been built up for a length of time, and in policing and those things, some kind of way is not the training. I still disagree with President Biden on that, but we need more training. They've been training forever. They've been training to the point of training on military grade equipment that they're going to use that on civilians. But the thing is, doing all this training is not helping. It's a mind thing. You know what I'm saying? You got to start to put them in classes and start showing them things and help people get a different perspective about life and how you approach communities. Like yourself, have a mindset like yourself. You're not out to be judge, jury, and all at one. You know, if you're just you're a cop to arrest people and then bring them to justice, not kill them. you can bring them to justice. Of course, like you said, somebody shoot at you. Of course, you have to defend yourself. Somebody hit you. Of course, you have to defend yourself. I mean, it's common sense, but you don't go out and just take people out. I don't believe that.
Right, and going back to what you said about the rules of engagement, they differ in the police world, and I understand what you guys
Right.
do in the military and all of that. But somewhere along the line, it changed, and I always call it the new drop gun, because back in the day, we used to always hear those stories about police officers when they shoot somebody, or they always carried an extra gun or they carried an extra knife. So if they shot somebody unjustly, they could put it near them or in their hand. So that was a drop gun. So the new drop gun is I feared for my life. And that has gone a long way in policing, way, 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 way too far. And I don't understand it either, because if you're that afraid of being a police officer, you need to find a new career. Because if you're doing your job, you're going to get a complaint. And there's going to be times when you're in a situation where you're going to have to fight. You can't run, because
That's right.
Unless you're in some situation where it's just you and them and you're outnumbered and you're running for safety or something like that, but you can't turn and just run because you're afraid, because you're not being effective. You're not doing your job effectively. So, and I can honestly say, and this is not bragging or this is not saying I'm Superman, but I don't remember ever being afraid to go out on the street. And again, and I love being a police officer. And I've been in situations where I've been sitting in cars doing things with people that I know are armed, and I had to talk them out of, believing it or thinking that I was a police officer, putting that minute of trust right then. But I know they were armed, but I always try to think of a plan. So if they do this, what am I going to do?
That's right.
So I always try to have a plan formulated in my mind. Thank God I've never had to use that plan, where I had to pull my gun out and, we got into a shootout in a close, quarter. It almost happened one night when I first started on the job, doing undercover work. And, I was with a couple that I had met, and my assignment that night was to buy some heroin from them. We met, and the lady instantly started telling me she did not like me. And I'm trying to get a boyfriend, take care of your woman. What's wrong with her? I don't like you. And this woman just did not like me. And she started reaching under the seat. I'm started reaching for my gun, and I'm thinking, okay, somebody in this car is going to die tonight.
That's right. Yeah.
If I'm going to die, I'm taking 2 other people with me. So those kind of situations. But even in those situations, I've never been afraid. I've gone home after those things, and I sit there and think, I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
But
you can't
back then, it was just like to me, it was like being in a movie. So I couldn't wait till the next day. I was jacked up at the end of the day on this stuff, and go home and you calm down, go to sleep, wake up the next day, go to the gym, workout. What's going to happen today? Let's go. And
Right.
I don't know
That's
if I
right.
was just foolish or what
You're
the
young.
bottom line was. I like being a police officer. That
That's
was the
right.
bottom line. So again, I was
Yeah.
I never remember going out on the street or doing any assignment where I was just afraid, especially too afraid to do what I was supposed to do, what I knew
That's right.
was right, and carry out what I was sworn in to do.
That's right.
So
That's right.
and again, this all goes back to the original conversation, which is Buckeye, and I don't have any respect for the Buckeye Police Department because I've seen what they do, and I've seen the harm that they can cause and the harm that they have caused to you and your family. And everybody that's on this feed tonight on this Q&A, they're familiar, and I'm sure a lot of people on here tonight, they can empathize, with this thing, and it's just horrible what Buckeye has done. And again, that leads us back to what we've been trying to do for forever, to get another agency to listen. And
Right.
just listening is the easy part. So after the listening, actually do something to help us out. Like you said, with the evidentiary part of this. And my hope and prayer is that somebody will actually open this thing up as a criminal investigation,
That's right.
and we go from there. And
You know,
start
and,
really doing this thing. Mhm.
but that criminal, when you say criminal investigation, that's very crucial to Daniel's case, and the reason why it's crazy. I don't know anything about law enforcement stuff until Daniel went missing. When I
Mhm.
said like getting this, understanding some of these things, but when it comes to what you're just saying, somebody opened up a criminal case. Buckeye, Chief Hall, was on CNN on the interview because Sarah Seidner came to spend some time with me out there in the desert from CNN, and she also visited Chief Hall. You guys seen the recording there. And he said out his own mouth, suspicious circumstances, blah blah blah, and some of the things that will warrant a criminal look into Daniel's case. But they still didn't budge. He said something out of other not making it. They can't make up evidence. The evidence is right there. It wasn't nothing to make up. It's right there, physical hard evidence. So, but the thing that I learned from an attorney in the past, I would not mention his name, but what he said is, long as the department, Buckeye don't want their department to be all about Daniel. That means that they're a small department. They have to spend all this money into investigating. So if long as they keep it as a missing person by law, they really don't have to be doing anything when a person missing. Hey, it's a grown man and blah 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 and so. They really they can do limited stuff like they're doing now. Limited stuff. They don't have to go full out investigation unless it's a criminal. They don't have to pull out all those resources in unless it's a criminal case. Because if it's not a criminal case, it's not that much resources there we actually use. Use to like to try to find out exactly what happened. They don't only classify it as a missing persons case, and they do missing person things like, oh, I called this player, oh, I followed this lead, or when I say I followed lead, somebody call in and say, hey, I think I seen Daniel on such, and then we call at the grocery store or something, say, hey, did you see this, blah blah? Can we get this, blah blah? And that's it. No, that type deal. That's no real investigation. That's no, like they didn't do. No DNA, no canvas in the area looking for anything they can find out at that scene, or doing DNA stuff, checking the airbags, checking. They didn't do all of that because they don't classify it as a criminal case. They just look at, hey, here's his things for safekeeping. Like they told me personally, they said, hey, and also they put on their Facebook page, but they took it down, of course. They had no more leads to follow. That was plenty of leads to follow at the time. They told my investigator, we're not investigating. That here's the black box data. We're not investigating. That's why they gave him all that stuff. We're done with this case. Is over. They gave me a final report that carried on after you guys, like you said, went national. But they gave me a final. They gave me a partial report and a final report. So I still have that final report that they gave me. So they was done with the case because they said, hey, it's just a missing person case. He's coming back. Here's his things. We're done with this. Let's move on to something else.
Yeah, and what's good is that the initial stuff that well, I won't say good, it'll be good later on. The initial mess ups that they did from the beginning, like you said, with this police report, and then come up with a different police report, and then putting all this information out as to what they did, and you having, more information as they can prove what they didn't do and all of
Right.
that. So all of that stuff, it's just like that thing. Once you tell a lie, you got to keep on telling a lie to make that lie true. And
Right.
then, and then it becomes that thing where I told this lie. Well, no, I said yesterday was green. No, it's blue. And you get confused. And it's the
That's
same.
right.
It's the same in policing. It's
Right.
exactly the same. They've been telling lies. They haven't done what they said they've been doing, and all of that stuff will come out. It
And
always
it will.
does.
And one of the things that stunned me and that bothered me. That's why a lot of times people ask me, say, "Hey, have you read this report?" Have you read? They sense they already took that offline, so nobody can get this
Mhm.
report now. But when they was releasing that report out to the public, they gave me that final report, and then when people what was in the public versus what they gave me, they actually changed paragraphs. Saying to fit their wording. So I thought that's called falsifying reports.
It is.
I heard you could do, I forgot what you call it when you kind of add in as you go, as a supplementary report. I think that's what it's called. They can do that, but not change um, wordings. Saying the
Right.
report itself, right? They can add things like adding, hey, today we got a results back from what we collected on such date, and they add that supplementary thing into that report. But they can't
Right.
go back and change some. Oh yeah, well we did this on the scene or something. When they say they haven't done on the scene at the beginning, but they got something there to have that stuff to back that up as well.
Right, because a supplement to a report is just another page added to.
Right,
So,
another page added.
this
Right,
report says this, that, and the other, but then they come back and we found, and that's all reports are. So if they actually went out and found something tonight and they added it in the report, it would be a supplement to that initial report. You don't
that's
go
right.
in, like you said, and delete paragraphs and change the initial report to
Right,
reflect your new narrative, your new lie. So
right,
supplements are nothing new. Even if you make a mistake on the initial report, you can write a supplement to that report and say,
right,
on this date, this information reflected this. But upon further investigation, on this particular date, we found out that was not true, and this is the supplement to that report, and this is what the new findings are. And that's
right,
that's the correct legal way to do it. But you don't
right,
go in, because there's always a trail of all of that stuff.
right.
You may think hitting that delete button makes stuff disappear,
No,
but
it
no,
doesn't.
you get the right subpoena and get to go into their records, into their files, into their system, and all of that stuff is still in there. It's
Right,
preserved. So that
that's right.
stuff doesn't just disappear because you hit the delete button, and that's
Right.
that's that's a good thing.
That's
So
the same thing like social media, of course. Once you put something out on
exactly.
social media, it's there because I was able to retrieve that when they say they had no more leads to follow, for instance. They deleted it, but it was still there. I was able to get a copy of that for future reference. So that's that type stuff. So yeah, you're right. Nothing really disappears.
Right. And then the good thing too is that, through Daniel, through this foundation that has been put together, we met a lot of good people.
Yes,
And I think it's my firm belief is that, and I think you and I and all of us, Sophia, Shauna, Ms. Berry, we've all discussed this is going to lead to something much, much bigger than all of us.
it
And
is.
uh,
Right.
to the point where it it can become a national thing, where, like with Mr. Pooley, with his organization. And I think one of the
Right.
greatest feelings in the world is when you're a part of something and then that something leads to helping somebody
Help.
else.
That's right. Exactly.
And that's one of the greatest feelings in the world. And that's what I mean when I was a police officer. You know, when you resolve a case, and I mean you resolve that case, you've been on it from day one, and it finally comes to a resolution, and you can actually go and tell somebody, look, Mr. Robinson, we did this, and we were able to find out what happened to Daniel, or whoever the victims are. That's one of the greatest feelings in the world, is when you
That's
can
right.
do that, because you genuinely put your heart, your soul, and everything that you can into resolving that, and you did it. And you're able to tell somebody. It doesn't bring that person back if it's anything where somebody has disappeared or been killed or anything, but you brought some sort of resolution, some sort of resolution to those people. And again, that's one of the greatest feelings in the world. It is.
It
And
is. That's right.
that's what kept me in policing, because I was from the community that I policed. And so it was like I was always giving my business card out, with my number on it. So I wasn't afraid from people calling me. And I used to get calls all hours of the day and night. Can you help me with this? Can you do this? And all of that stuff. And I always tried to make myself available for those people, because I wasn't just handing my card out because I had a lot of business cards. I genuinely, if I can help you with anything and it's within my power to do, I definitely will. And that's how I handled my cases too, to the point
Right.
where, I don't care if it was a stolen bike or homicide. I did my best to bring some type of closure to that situation, to that case. So that's it.
Right, and that's right, and you show that you still showing that to this day. That's why I started off the Q&A with that, because that's exactly your pattern and your character. So yeah, I believe that as well. So thank you so much for that, because that's
Yeah.
definitely where you approach. You should approach. I think all law enforcement, everyone, all of us, whether law enforcement or not, should approach everything like that when it comes to helping people and doing things. So yes,
Yeah,
yes,
because this is not the kind of profession where you can just check out and man, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like people. I don't, or you become so desensitized that, all the stink is on you all the time. And you have to have a way of getting that stink off of you, because it can get like a heavy, wet, soaking blanket, and it can consume you. And I always tell people, especially newer people coming into the profession, you got to have something that keeps you grounded.
that's
You
right.
go to church, your family, you pray, you got to work out. You got to work your mental out, work your spirit out, work your body out. And otherwise you will get consumed. And I've seen a lot of officers, that have gotten consumed. I've had people that I work with gone to prison. I've had people that I've worked with committed suicide. I've had
Yes,
people
yes.
I work with drinking problems, all kind of substance abuse problems, and all of that stuff. And it's just, and again, you got to have a healthy outlet, because this stuff can weigh you down. And
And,
I've seen
and
it
I know a lot of law enforcement officers, yeah, they go through the PTSD. I mean, because you
happen.
constantly have to deal with public and things like that. And I know that. So yeah, definitely a lot of guys, period. I mean, well, people, period, sometimes don't want to get the help they need as well. So you carrying those things into an apartment, and you're not getting, or nobody's recognizing some of the help that you may need a break, a vacation or something. Some people
Yeah.
are workaholics and don't want to stop working. But those things can come back and reflect on your job performance when you have to deal with the public. You just, that ticking time bomb waiting to happen. So yeah,
Mhm.
definitely have to watch out for things like that, even with law enforcement and in any other profession, but definitely law enforcement and military as well. So it can be
Exactly.
ticking time bombs. Yes,
Exactly. And like you said, once you get to that point, you're not effective for yourself. You're not effective for the community. You're not effective, rather, with the people that you work with, and you are a ticking time bomb. And
that's right.
and I've seen officers like that. And I did not want to be around them when that bomb exploded. And again, I've seen some officers that have succumbed to all of that stuff. And you know, I knew, like I said, it was 3 or 4 guys that I worked with towards the end of my career that actually killed themselves, and
Yeah,
all of that. So it is what it is. But these are things that should be, because like you said earlier, you can't train ugliness out of a person.
no,
You can't train hate out of a police officer. You can't train them to do their job with some compassion, like we said with Mr. Pooley this morning. And that stuff, it shows in how they greet you, how they treat you. And we know there's a world full of bad people. And you know, in policing, you're going to encounter those people unless you're hiding in your police car, hiding in the station, and never go out on the street. And you're not doing anybody any good. You're just there, what we used to call, they retired on duty. trying to run away from anything to help anybody and all of that stuff. And again, if you get to that point, you need to go. You need to have
That's
some
right.
self-reflection and say, this job isn't for me, and you need to quit. You need to, if I don't care if you got, and I've actually seen, I remember one guy, he was a rookie and he had his FTO, his training partner. They went out on the street the first night. I saw him go out on patrol, and he came back in. And I asked the guy that was training, "What's up with him?" He's just terrified. I said, "Of what?" He said, "He's just terrified that somebody's going to kill him." And so he had this thing going out on the street. He was just scared that somebody was going to kill him. They went out the next night. They came back in early. I saw him again. "What's up?" He quit. I'm like,
Wow.
"Good."
Right.
I admired that he did, because you can't, how you going 2 days on the job? Well, he came out of the academy, but 2 days into his training, he's terrified. All he's thinking about is somebody killing him. And I'm like, man, it's good that he quit.
Yeah, because he'd be, definitely not good for other officers. I'll just put it that way.
Not at all. And the
'Cause,
public, that's
yeah,
kind
the
of,
public, right?
that's that kind of person that is going, you say boo to him, he's going to pull his gun out and just start shooting, and you might be in the way and he shoots you.
That's right.
So yeah, I admired him for quitting. This job is not for me. He understood that, and I'm out of here. Okay.
That's right.
Have a nice life.
Right.
Find another career. Go back to wherever you came from. No hard feelings or anything.
It's not made
And
for
I
everybody,
admire
one thing I know is, well, I had to go military because I don't know law enforcement, but one thing in the military as well, people don't know that when you go through basic training, for instance, you have to adapt. And they will, once you get out of basic training, you have to actually graduate. You have to reach certain phases.
Mhm.
And if you don't reach those phases, they say they call it failure to adapt. So some people just can't adapt to being in the military, for instance. And like you said, those people will be a danger to themselves and to others. So they really weed them out really quick before you go to the graduation to the next stage of actually being a soldier in the military, army. I'm gonna speak for the army. And so it's a process, but definitely you're right. Being a person that have that automatic fear at the beginning, yes, will be a danger to themselves and others.
Yep. Because I remember one night, and I was working this overtime detail on patrol, and it was like from midnight to 3 in the morning. We had to go down to this housing project, and it was me and my partner. We just rode around in a squad car, and it was this guy that I knew. He had just gotten out of prison, and this guy, he was humongous. He was probably the biggest person I'd ever seen in person in my life, and he came out of the shadows and he walked over to the car. He called my name. Like I said, he had just gotten out of prison, and he was big into selling drugs. And so we rolled the window down, and that's one thing. Sometimes you don't get the opportunity to practice all the safe stuff, because one of the worst positions to be is in a squad car when you're talking to somebody. So if they pull out a gun, you're trapped in that little compartment. So the safest thing to do is get out of the squad car. But we were sitting in there talking to him, and his arms were big as my body. And I had the window rolled down. So when he put his arm in the window well, I'm like, God, he had taken up maybe 3/4. It looked like he had taken up 3/4 of the window just with his arm, his bicep. I had my gun out, and it was pressed up against the door. And if he said boo, I'd have probably shot him that night.
Wow.
But but it was just stories like that. So when I retired, I found those people and I talked to them, like that lady I told you about earlier. I found her maybe about 5 years after I retired, and it bothered me. And I found her, and I talked to her, and I called her. She said, "What's going on?" And we talked for a long time. And I said, "Remember that night when this?" She said, "Yeah, I was gonna kill you that night." I started laughing. I said, "Well, we were gonna kill each other because, And she, like I said, that was 5 years after I retired. So that was maybe about 15, 20 years prior that incident happened. And I talked to her, and she said, "What's going on?" I said, "That night bothered me for a long time, and it still is." And I asked her, I said, "What was going on with you that night?" She said she was just hooked on drugs so bad that she was just out of her mind.
Wow.
I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. And she told me that day she had just kicked the habit. So we're talking maybe 20 years later, she had just kicked that habit, So
I'm glad she did that.
oh, me too.
That's a positive.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yes, that's amazing.
It
Yes.
is. So I go, sometimes when I think about people like that, if I have an end to them, I'll call them and ask them, look, I'm not doing this anymore. I hope you're not doing the same stuff. What was going on that night when we had to arrest you? What was going on? Because the funny part about that, what the sad part is, her boyfriend, he's the one I initially met. And I said, whatever happened to him? She said he was in Chicago and somebody killed him. So a lot of those people back then when I first started, well, throughout my career that I had interactions with, especially on the drug unit and the gang unit, a lot of them not with us anymore.
Oh,
That
wow.
lifestyle caught
Yeah.
up with them,
Right.
So.
Yeah, it can be rough. I can tell that can be rough.
Mhm.
So
Well, like I said, back then, I thought it was all cool because it was like living a movie. So,
I say
yeah.
young age. Yeah.
Yeah, something. Yeah. So it is what it is.
Yes.
Well,
Yes. Yeah.
all that leads me back to here, on the foundation and meeting some good people and hoping and praying that we continue to do what we're going to do, what we're doing, and we find out where Daniel is. That's the important thing right now.
That's right. That's definitely true. And one thing I want to go before we get too far, and I don't get this chance to talk about it, is the protest again. Bring that back
Mhm.
up. I decided to put a postponement on it, and those are the reasons why. I don't know if we mentioned it together, but I did
Mhm.
mention at the beginning that I had discussions today with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and based on that conversation, um, it's time to put that pause on it for right now. Put it on hold. And I say pending. I put that slash pending, pending what we get from this hold. So that's where we're at. So I'm definitely letting everybody know up front here that's listening in right now. Yeah, that protest is on pause, on hold right now to further notice. And that's because of a conversation I had with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office today. So pray for us on that behalf. I don't know, Larnell, if you have anything you want to discuss, say on that point, but just pray for us on that part.
Yeah, I agree with the decision that you made because you had asked us this morning. And well, right now, it's just that we have to have that faith in Sheriff Pinzone that he's going to do what he said, what he's saying he's going to do. And
Right.
I have no reason to believe that he isn't. And but if he doesn't, by some chance that he doesn't, and he doesn't give us a fair explanation, we can always put things back on. And
Right.
so, the prayer is that those rosary beads that he gave you, he honors those rosary beads.
That's right. Now I laugh because we talk about that a lot.
Exactly. And he's going to do. And again, I have no doubt that he won't do what he said he's going to do, and all of this stuff. And it's just past time. We shouldn't be here having this conversation tonight. We shouldn't be here, having this Q&A. You shouldn't be having Q&As, 20 months later, on this topic. What we
That's
should be
right.
having talking about is the foundation and what's the next thing that we're going to do. Who's the next family that we're going to help? All of that. But unfortunately, we're here,
That's
with no
right.
resolution. Just
That's
like
right.
what said, hashtag find Daniel, and that's why we're here, and that's why I hope and pray everybody that's in this Q&A that we're all going in the same direction, and we all have the same mindset and know what is important, and that's finding Daniel.
And that is, and that's gonna be that's the only goal for me. That's the only
Mhm.
goal for me. I don't have it any other way. Like I expressed to Maricopa County today, my job as a father is to make sure my son get the justice that he deserves. Make sure we find him first of all, the justice he deserves, and also to protect him as a person. He can't speak for himself. I
Mhm.
protect his integrity, who is his character of a person that he is. I hear a lot of garbage out there in the street. And not one time I'm gonna tell anybody that Daniel is perfect. He's not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect person. And I don't think anybody on this earth can say they are a perfect person. So
True.
we have things that we do that is not perfect, but his heart, his mind, and who he is as a person, his brilliance that he is, and the fact he's just human. He's my son. Those things alone is the reasons why they should be anybody. should be taking this case seriously, not just for Daniel. That's the reason why we had the Daniel Robinson Foundation, not just for Daniel, but for other people's family as well. As you know, last year, a year before last, when Gabby Petito went missing. I didn't know anything. I was so hard and working so hard trying to get my son's case some attention. So was able to put Daniel's case on a certain level just from hard work. When I became aware of the Petito case, it came from me through Twitter. I'm sitting there constantly doing these tweets and trying to get Daniel's case out there. And someone said, "Hey, have you heard this Petito case?" Of course, I'm no, I don't watch news. I don't know what's going on at the time, but my family hit me up about it as well. So I was like, then that through my curiosity about it. And then I said, no, I haven't heard of it. Yeah, but this is something that's going on 24 hours, 7 days a week, blah, blah, blah. And they gave me ins and outs. The first thing I noticed about it is that the girl was around Daniel's age. I think she was like 24 or something. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But she was down around Daniel's age. I know how I'm feeling about Daniel being missing. This young lady's being missing. That's the first initial thought. Hey, oh my God. My mind thinking, look, here it is. What's going on with these young people missing? That is kind of ironic to me. My son is young, is around the same age as this young lady, and he's missing as well. I know this devastating this family is going through, but I can't say I felt somewhat offended. I felt a lot offended when I was busting my tail trying to get Daniel's case out there, and I saw with no efforts. There was just the FBI's in the case, and this is in the case. What got me was the fact when I started learning about the case and the guy that ended up ultimately murdering her. Found out he was a murderer. Before he done that, they was looking for him too. He was over his parents' house, I guess, or something, and that's what offended me because he's at his parents' house. He put some kind of backpack, they say, and then he just took off. They didn't know he did anything yet, but they spent millions of dollars, resources to go find this guy. They call him a missing person. My son is a missing person as well, and I couldn't get Buckeye to put a dime on my son's case. You know what I'm saying? I had to go to GoFundMe, asking people for funding, this all of the stuff. So that was the defensive part of me. The defensive part wasn't the fact that the Petito case, the Petito family was getting attention. They deserved attention. They deserve that attention. They need that attention. All families need that attention when they're missing, their loved one goes missing. So nobody should be going through lack of urgency. The way I used to say it back then was the way they did the Petito case should be a model, the way they should do all cases. The same as that energy that's there should be the same as that energy for somebody else's case if they miss a loved one. Nobody love their loved one more than the other. You love your loved ones. Everybody that's a human being that's missing. If you can do anything, like you said, Larnell, law enforcement standpoint, you can do anything to help people. That's your job, to go out there and help people. You know what I'm saying? If you can do it and you got the resources and the ability to do it, do it. If you don't have the resources like Buckeye, say, oh, we didn't have the resources, go to the neighboring cities. That's why we're asking right now. It's a simple thing for Buckeye to do right now today. Just release my son's case over to the Maricopa County. Simple as that. Take your hands off of it. I give that jurisdiction over to the Buckeye Police. That'll be the easiest way route I can look at it. That'll be an even easier route. Say, hey, this family don't have no confidence in this department. If you want to be, that's if they don't want to admit to their screw up. They have no confidence. We're gonna send it over to the Maricopa County. Let the Maricopa County handle it if they can, because it's jurisdictional. Because the family don't have no confidence. That's their way out. Though we know that they screwed this whole case up. So I'm saying the same energy. I would like to see that. That's the reason why I have the search, you guys, and I've been inviting the law enforcement out there for the search, because I for one time want to see that energy that I've seen in all these other cases with no efforts that they show for my son. It's not this is principle of the thing. So sometimes I think Sheriff Mazzone, he said he's going to do their own searches because they want to use a professional. I get that. To me, that still don't excuse you not to come to my search. What I'm asking for in law enforcement is, and I sent that advice out, and I'm going to tell you this real quick, is magically, Larnell, you probably came in the beginning, I went on my website, and magically, I don't know, somebody hacked my page for the website, but they took the letter off. The letter was off the website. No, nothing. I'm the only one got access to that, But anyway, the whole point is, it's magic. We'll talk about that later. But the thing is, that's weird to me. But the thing is, I sent all of them invite. It's public invite. It's on social media. I send it directly to them. And what I'm saying is, law enforcement need to show me that same exact energy that they show in all of these cases. One time, after a whole a year and a half, or over a year and a half now, not one time they show that energy come out to any search that I've done to help. I've seen them, and they say, "Oh well, I guess they try to play that game now." It's always something. Um, some officer on duty helping in a civilian's efforts or something like that. I see law enforcement go help with civilian efforts all the time. I
Yep.
see civilians on the ground walking in the woods calling out for somebody's name with law enforcement. So
Yep.
law enforcement can do that as well. That's just come up with another excuse why you don't want to come out and help. Why you don't want to be a part of my searches that I've been doing for. I need those resources. I need those help. I need the law enforcement out there to with these volunteers on the ground. That's all I'm asking. Something simple. I even give them an avenue to get out of this thing. When I talk to Sheriff's Zone Office, for instance, and some of the others, send them off duty. I don't care. Whatever you want to do, tell them don't wear a uniform. Whatever the case, just have them out there. Show support. Bring some resources with you. Don't come in handed though. Bring some of that taxpayer money out there with you while I'm out there doing my search. So that's it. As simple as that. So that's the way I look at it. The whole thing. My efforts to help other families is based on things like that. No family. All families should get treated the same way the Petito case family had gotten treated. And then some of the other cases I can name, all families should get that same kind of energy. Daniel too included.
That's true. I agree wholeheartedly. I agree.
Yes, sir. But thanks so much. I think if we get to this time, you already know how the team is. You guys are. If you weren't on here with me, you'd be one of the ones too, right? I just laugh. You guys can kill me the other night with that.
Hey, I'm pleading the fifth.
That's right. Sometimes I get long. Sometimes I say I'm saying it this way, my way. Sometimes I get long-winded, but I know you all agree. You always get long-winded. So, yes,
like
sir.
I said, I plead the fifth. Long as it's not what is it, Taco Tuesday or
Taco Tuesday, right?
what was the Wednesday? What was going on that Wednesday?
I think I took a energy shot or something. One of them little green shots or something.
Is that what
it's I was sleepy, man. I was sleeping before I came on Q&A. I said, "Oh my God, I need to wake up."
Happy hour.
Happy hour. That's right. No more happy hour. That's
way
right.
too happy. That was funny.
Oh my gosh.
That was funny.
Yes, y'all was killing me on that one. Yes.
I think I finally got tired and went to bed.
I declare, man, it felt like I was talking on the phone about a good 15 minutes.
See, that's way past adrenaline.
Yeah, it is. It is. It was really rough.
See, that's why I don't drink.
I see Sophia on here. She's making comments already. But yes.
But it's good, man. It's all good. It's all good. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Larnell. Well, to reiterate everything, yes, the search is on pause right now. Those reasons are because of the discussions that we have with the Maricopa County. We want to see what direction they're really getting ready to take right now. With that, some of those things that we discussed, and so right now it's on pause, I guess, on hold, pending what happens. So everybody who's listening right now, please be on the watch out for that change on the date if needed for the protest. But we will be having don't forget it, we will be having the search on the 25th. So definitely would need you guys out there. It's on the bottom of the screen. Public search for Daniel, scheduled February 25th. Need you out there. I need those everybody on the ground, all hands on deck. I need everybody out there if possible to help in the search. It's very important because I have one shot at this according to the owners of those lands, and I want to make sure that we can do that. We have a couple more minutes, Larnell. I don't know if you got enough time, but I want to see if anybody have any questions for you or myself, and maybe we get about 3 questions, literally 3 questions from the audience, and then we can go ahead and end this Q&A.
Okay.
So anybody have any questions, you know what to do. Put your the word question like Sarah did here, or a capital letter Q or a question mark or something like that, the word question, and we'll go from there. Sarah have here the search or protest is on pause. It's the protest that is on pause, as well as, let me see who else I got here. Kathy, thanks so much for being here. Did you repost the well video? I was thinking about doing that tonight. I decided to bring Larnell on tonight, but I will be talking about that on the next Q&A. I have some other things I want to share. Matter of fact, since I said that, I said it to you on the team on the chats before the Q&A. I'm planning on. I try to make sure this whole efforts that I'm doing about for my son is nothing about me, personally. However, I do see a need of that as well this time. So next Q&A, I'll be talking about some things, how I'm feeling, my efforts to find my son, the things that I have to go through personally as a person. It's not an easy road for people, and I think sometimes anybody, they can look at the efforts of a family to look for their loved one. Like we met Miss oh man, I can't, I don't want Jessica Nunez, when she looked for her daughter. I think I have it the right way, but anyway, Alicia, and she looked for her daughter, and when I first met her, and I saw the tears in her eyes and the pain when she came to a day of remembrance, I'll never forget that, man. When a mother had to suffer that like that, and her daughter is gone, she wake up, and her daughter crawl over the fence, I think it was, and got out of there, and it's gone since. And the pain that she's going through constantly out there trying to search for her daughter, and the efforts is not easy. So sometimes, people just don't know what people go through, and we had to deal with the public. Like in my instance, when I first came out to Arizona, I had to deal with death threats. Just looking for my son. So there's a lot of things to talk about. So I'm going to try to bring some of those things up on my next Q&A and start talking about those things just for one day, and then go on from there and keep my efforts going. But did you post that? No, I will. I'll talk about that again. Question from Sarah Miller: is it better to be walking at the search, or is it okay to bring a cam now? I need both. I need the Can-Ams, you guys. I like the side by side. The folks who bring the side by sides can do things like go back up that Hacienda River, because I'm sure it's dry this time of the year still. And also there's some areas near the aqueducts, the canal, that I would like to for people with vehicles like yourself to go there and do that. I will be having one myself, not a Can-Am. That's for the rich folks. Not as messing. But I will have one of those side by sides as well, to be able to help along with those who carry those vehicles. But yes, please, by all means, bring those. Not only you can do that, Sarah, you also can help with logistics when we have volunteers. Sometimes people get tired and they could be brought back to the command center, as well as we have a 4-seater. I don't know how many seats you have there, but that's what I'm saying. If somebody needs a lift or something like that, I usually have a 4-seater to be able to get volunteers around and stuff like that. So if needed. Excuse me, you guys. Also, I have a question here from Ashes to Ashes. My walking is not the greatest, but I can help with the support on the 25th, like passing out snacks and water. Yes, if we need some help in the command center, we do have some people saying the same thing. So we'll see as we get there some of those efforts when it comes to, like you say, the command center, around the command center. So thank you so much for being here, being there as well. Aaron Chase, I'm gonna do one more line after this, if that, and that'll be it. Are you okay with me proceeding with still shots of from the well footage to send to our 2 contests at the FBI missing person manager? I don't want to go forward without your permission. And I'm sorry, Aaron, that you and I had those discussions in the emails and stuff, and also the Zoom. And I didn't get back to you. I've been very busy, so I apologize for that. And I meant to tell you the last time. Yes, by all means, do so. And thank you so much for doing that. And I know everybody probably not aware, but you do a lot of stuff in the background, and I really appreciate your efforts and your work. So I want to make sure you don't think that I don't remember that, and I really care about what you're doing. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your efforts to help find. I know how passionate you are about Daniel, so thanks so much. All right, and let's see. I think that's it. I got some new comments here. Question. This is it, Larnell. This is the last one. MSO stated that Buckeye Ellie need to ask for help. Why can't Sheriff Bazone take the initiative and ask himself? You understand that question?
Yeah. Excuse me. I do. We had discussed that with him, and it's still that thing. He's an elected official,
Right.
and he is, like you've said on numerous times, there's a number of cities, as we all know, that make up, that are in a particular county, and Buckeye just
Right.
happens to be in that county. And it's not one of those things where he can just swoop in and just say, I'm the big bad sheriff, so I'm here to take over, because it's not
Right.
like on TV in a Western or anything like that. So that's kind of the gist of why it hasn't happened, and I understand that. And, maybe in the future we get everything in line, we can have a lot of people come in and take over Buckeye, get
Right.
Sheriff Larry Hall out of there.
He should have been out there a long time ago.
Thank you. Kick his butt straight on down the highway where he belongs, and all
Right.
of that. So, there's hope. Like Jesse would
That's right.
say, keep hope alive.
That's right. And thank
Yes,
you, everybody, for coming in this evening's Q&A. I'm Dave Robinson. This is Larnell Farmer. And we thank you guys for your love and support. And like I said, I will be back next week for more. But I will have some videos throughout the week to talk about the searches. But thank you so much, everybody. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next Q&A. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Thank you.